Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's CPD session, which is on continuous improvement and operational transformation for directors. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity to meet me, my name is Brock Olive, and I'm the Director of Education with the Chartered Governance Institute of Canada. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's session. I want to just introduce our speaker as well as my colleague, Kimberly McDonald. So some of you might already know Kimberly. She's our education coordinator. Give everybody a wave, Kim. And I'll shift over to introducing our topic and our speaker. Today's discussion will focus on an increasingly important responsibility for directors, which is understanding how organizations can continuously improve performance, translate strategy into execution, and successfully navigate operational change. So on that note, I'm very pleased to welcome Alex Busetta. Alex is a partner and executive consultant with Abacus Team Inc. And Alex brings more than 33 years of quality and operational experience and is a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, certified change practitioner, and accredited director. Alex will take us today. Alex will take us through the foundations of operational excellence and Lean Six Sigma with respective roles of boards and management, and how organizations can better connect high-level strategy with execution. He'll also explore the growing role of artificial intelligence in operational excellence, including the opportunities, risks, and governance questions directors should be considering. At the end of the session, there will be an opportunity for questions and discussions. So I encourage you to participate and bring forward your questions as we move through the session, and those will be taken up at the end by Alex. So with that, it's my pleasure to welcome Alex Busetta. Alex, thank you for joining us today, and I'll turn things over to you, and you can take it from here.
All right, thank you very much, Brock, for the introduction and for the welcome. So, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, or for some of you, maybe good morning, depending on where you are in the country. So, welcome to this presentation here on continuous improvement, operational excellence. So, just to reiterate a little bit first of all, the objectives in terms of what we're going to be covering. So we'll start to looking at how to foster an organizational culture of operation excellence, and of course, we'll define operational excellence. Very often, we tend to think that it is the role of the executives, and of course, the executives have a very grand role in that journey of building that culture. But how can a director or a board of director impact and influence that outcome? We'll also learn the fundamentals of what is continuous improvement and Lean Six Sigma, which are the basic tools to bring operational excellence. We'll discuss about the roles of the boards and also of management, right? So, what is the difference in those roles in terms of that context of bringing continuous improvement? We'll also discuss in terms of how to flow down strategies to the execution. And this is something that is a constant struggle in most organizations. Being a consultant, and also I'm a adjunct professor at McGill University in Montreal. Very often we meet with organizations that do have a strategy but no execution plan. So there's a lack of linkage. So we will discuss on how we can establish that linkage in an efficient way that we can establish and then, of course, monitor. And of course, as Brock mentioned, the growing role of AI. AI, very often we hear, well, we don't need to really improve or looking at our way of executing, looking at our processes, looking at our practices. Let's just use AI. Well, yes and no. And we'll discuss here about the opportunities as well as some of the risks related to this. And we'll discuss also about a bit about a roadmap in terms of what should we do first. So we'll start with the continuous improvement, operational transformation. We'll discuss then about that toolkit that we call Lean Six Sigma, discussing here as well about the governance, the roles as mentioned, AI, and the session will finish up with question and answer. So Q&A. So I invite you to put your questions in the chat at any point, but keep in mind that we will go through those questions at the end of the session today. So first of all, probably everyone will agree today, when we look at everything that is happening to businesses, organizations, if we're looking at customers' expectations, either your customers are consumers or your customers are other organizations or the public or residents, things are getting much more challenging, right? So we need more and more to partner with different parties to get things done. Uh, Everyone wants things quicker, right? Just think about very simple examples of getting an answer whenever you call a bank or you're calling Air Canada, Porter, or WestJet. Everyone's getting quite impatient in terms of the answers that we want to get today. At the other end, one statistics that I've put here, and I did not find the Canadian equivalent, but in probably is very similar. 65% of today's students will be working in jobs that don't exist yet. So we could see it as something very, very worrisome, or we can see it, of course, in terms of something very positive as the rhythm as to which we evolve. Society evolves, technology evolves, needs evolve, and of course we need to keep in sync with all those changes. So we're going to be discussing here about customer-driven quality. And again, customers can be very diverse. Consumers could be external customers, could be organizations, corporations, could be the public, or internal customers. Meaning I'm Department A and I'm supplying my services, my goods to Department B. And of course, everything needs to move at once. If things are easy for internal customers, things are going to also be great for external customers. There's a direct relationship over here. Um, Sometimes I hear some, especially my university colleagues, say to me, "You know what, Alex? It's okay to let employees or work harder in order to deliver something better for an external customer." And I do agree working harder sometimes is needed, right? When it's a rush, there's an emergency, we need to work later, need to work on weekends. But if you agree, this is not a solution for 52 weeks a year, right? We cannot ask our employees to work harder and harder every single week, right? Otherwise, we start to see fatigue, mistakes, and unfortunately, very often some depression and anxiety. So the solution is not to get things working harder, of course. And we'll discuss about the solutions, which is what leads us to continuous improvement for operational transformation. So we need to change the way that we work, the way that we execute, the way that we take decisions, and we need some tools to help us rebuild how we execute and how we provide our goods and services. So continuous improvement, and you see it here on this particular page. We're talking about a method where small, gradual improvements are being made, meaning we're going to change aspects of an organization step by step for several reasons. First of all, because we learn from our mistakes. So something that we implemented that works is great, but sometimes it needs some tweaks. Sometimes it needs some adjustments. Sometimes I would introduce a new uh, Microsoft Teams solution or a Google solution. Might not be perfect, and we need to tweak it to the needs of the organization. Another reason that is primordial is the capacity of people to change. Too much change could be quite exhausting, and too much change can lead to a lot of psychological resistance and cognitive resistance. Psychological meaning people are going to be scared, people are going to be anxious, and cognitive meaning you're changing things so much, I need to relearn my tools and relearn everything about my job every 3 months, right? So that also could be quite cumbersome. So, continuous improvement is really the preferred mechanism to drive transformations. There's a very interesting book on that topic. If you're interested, it's called The Big Con, CON, and it's about organizations that try to change too fast. So, for example, we're bringing a consulting firm, Deloitte or Price Waterhouse. We change everything in an organization within 40 days or 3 months, and then everything's changed, everything transformed, and we walk away. What happens and what remains in the organization? So lots of risks, lots of extra costs, extra overtime. So very interesting book that does the analysis, and it is based on studies that were done on hundreds of organizations. So how do we bring continuous improvement in terms of having that transformation? And we will discuss about one of the most popular techniques or methodologies nowadays, which is called Lean Six Sigma. Some of you might have heard about it. If you did not, the terminology might sound very unique, and it is. So take a time machine. Let's go back to 1950. Japan lost the Second World War. Japan was rebuilding its entire economy. So everything going from finance to social services to healthcare to the different types of industries, and they needed to move fast. And they did develop what was then called Kaizen. Kaizen, which is the Japanese for continuous improvement. Why the Japanese? Because they were under that pressure after losing the Second World War. They needed to rebuild everything very quickly. So they needed to invent or develop those methodologies very, very quickly. So one of the leading companies that brought Kaizen or continuous improvement is Toyota. To be clear, things were not born in Toyota. It is a Japanese thing. So there was a consortium of hundreds of Japanese organizations. But Toyota took quite a leadership role. In the 1980s, a university called MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, visited Japan and was quite uh, taken back by that new Kaizen thing. And they brought back Kaizen to the rest of the world, especially North America, but they did not call it Kaizen. They wanted to give more of a North American terminology, and they called it lean or lean thinking. And lean in the sense of being adaptable, being agile about what we do. One company that was very impressed by that lean thinking was Motorola. And if you look at the 1980s, Motorola was building television sets, radio stations. They were not yet in the uh, phone business, and they used lean quite extensively to get better at everything they do. And I'll show you some numbers on the next slide that will probably make you smile. They went back to Japan and they wanted to learn more than just that basic lean thinking that MIT brought back. They visited Toyota and they said, "Can you please give us more tools?" And they got quite an interesting additional bank of tools based on data analysis, root cause analysis, finding problems. And they achieved something that no one had achieved before in the world. And this is a number that comes from their cell phones. Their cell phones were 99.9996% good, right? So you got 0.00034% defect. So that was quite shattering for everyone. And as soon as their phone came out, and some of you might remember, beginning of the 1990s, everyone had a Motorola, either a cell phone or a pager. They dominated the industry because they were so good. So, and they invented that additional methodology. They didn't want to call it Lean version 2. Uh, they wanted to give it a connotation that was much more Motorola, and they called it Six Sigma. Statistics, Sigma is a measure of variation. So why Six Sigma is to try to make things as repeatable as possible and trying to reduce variation in what we do. Today, if you take any courses related to continuous improvement, if you're buying any type of book, looking at any type of videos, people call it Lean Six Sigma. And this is actually to simplify things, to specify that it is the combination of Lean, the principles, and that additional toolkit, Six Sigma. These are the numbers that I wanted uh, to show you. So Motorola before Lean, etc., and that was on their radio stations, 150% defects. Think about it for 1 minute, what it means. 150% defect, meaning I'm repairing a radio, and once I repaired my radio, I found another mistake on the radio. I need to repair it again. So that they went from 150. When they started to use lean, they went to roughly 1% to 5% defects, depending on what products. And once they used the full lean and Six Sigma, 0.00034% defect. So something that is quite outstanding. So Lean Six Sigma, when you look at the um, different types of belts or rolls, there is an entire set of different certifications that exist. And it is a little bit like going to primary school, high school, then you would do maybe an undergrad degree, then you might decide to go to a graduate degree. So same thing over here starts with the white belt, yellow belt, which are more awareness training, then goes to the green belt and black belts. So green belts and black belts are more the experts of the methodologies, and the master black belts are more the coaches, the teachers. And yes, there's a big influence, I should say, between karate and the principle of belts in karate and the belts that you see on this slide. So besides Motorola, let's discuss about some other examples. So these are all examples that I'm very, very familiar with. So if anyone would like to connect through the questions or after the call through LinkedIn and anything. I can give you a lot. So first, this is a series of improvements that we have done through my consulting firm with Novartis. Novartis, which is a medication provider, but also they have multiple patient support programs. And we jointly worked with quite a few clinics in British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan, to bring a much better efficiency in the clinic. So overall, 25% of the patient backlogs were reduced, reducing the efforts, reducing waiting time, etc. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win for the clinics because they can then see more patients faster, and it's a win, of course, for the patients that need to wait much less time. Um, so it's not only about clinics, Novartis. You got multiple hospitals and clinics all across Canada that are also quite fond of Lean Six Sigma and continuous improvement. Um, the other example that you see here at the bottom is Rolls-Royce aircraft engines, and this is a facility in Montreal that is building engines and as well as repairing aircraft engines. And Rolls-Royce was a little bit in the crush. They needed to add 60% more capacity to the Canadian operations in order to service, especially in terms of the repairs and the building the largest engine of the world, which is called the Trent. And we had 1 year to do this. We had 1 year to do this, and we were able to achieve that expansion of 60% by looking at how we do things. And something that I'd like to mention, this project, the capital expenses were extremely low because the Canadian budget was very limited. So it was more about relooking at how we are organized physically and through our decision-making processes and our way of working. So another example, the Canadian Mental Health Association. And this is something that was initially done in the Halton region, so Milton and Oakville in Ontario. So the time for a patient or what we call a client in mental health to get registered to a program, to get support in terms of stress, anxiety, alcohol dependency, or any other challenge, it used to take 10 months. And through continuous improvement and Lean Six Sigma, it was brought down to less than a week. Once that was done, then they expanded these practices to the rest of Canada. And another very well-known example is the Ford turnaround. So Ford was, which was at the border of bankruptcy, and they quite recovered in terms of their quality of the products, services, and product offer. So having vehicles that are much more attractive, and you might not like the look or feel of a Ford, but their vehicles became much more interesting in that field. So why I'm showing you those four examples here? Well, first to start to illustrate what it can bring, and at the same time, so you can appreciate the diversity of the applications of operational excellence or continuous improvement. It is not for manufacturing. It is not for social services. It is not for healthcare. It is for everyone. So, what are some of the improvement steps? And this is actually typically what we do in a project in order to improve a particular situation, fix a problem, develop a new process. Well, we start by recognizing what's going on. Recognize, and some of you have done a different corporate director accreditations or programs We're talking here about establishing the strategy and understanding what is our from our SWOT analysis, what are our objectives, and what should we be focusing on. Then, project by project, we define what is the project and who's the right team. Measure is about understanding what's going on. What are the things that are not working, the things that are working, what is the voice of the customers, what our customers are saying to us. Analyze is about understanding, taking everything that we learned in the measure phase and making sure to analyze and draw conclusions in terms of what should we be doing first to fix that particular problem. Then improve is about creativity and developing multiple solutions, finding the best solution, trying out the solution and implementing it. Then control is to make sure that we have some metrics in place once the project is completed and closed to make sure that we're still in sync with what we said that we would do. So one of the key tools is what we call the concept of waste or non-value added. And the idea here is that for anything that we do, we need to understand what is driving customer value, meaning what customers are willing to pay for, and what are the things that are not driving value. Sometimes we can eliminate those things, sometimes we can't. But first step is about identifying those sources of frustration. Um, I'll give you an example. I was taking a plane from Montreal to Toronto Pearson last month, and there was a problem with my registration. So they could not um, they could not give me the seat. There was a computer system problem. They could not give me the seat, so they tried for 45 minutes to fix the issue, which is non-value added. Then instead of flying to Pearson, they flew me to Bishop Airport, downtown Toronto, so the wrong airport. And then I needed to take the train to go to Pearson. So non-value added again, non-value added flown to the wrong airport, and then non-value added for me needed to take a train to go to Pearson to pick up my car. So the idea here is let's identify what is non-value added, what is causing customer either frustration or waiting time, and let's try to see if we can do something better about it. And so first identification and then seeing what we can do. So you have here an acronym that is used very often, which is called the TIMWOOD. So the non-value added of transportation. Transportation, can we minimize the transportation? Right in my story here, if they brought me to the right airport, I would not need to to move from one airport to the other, taking a train. Motion, walking around too much. Um typing is a type of motion. So typing too much, sending too many emails. Inventory can be a bad thing if we don't have any. Inventory can be a bad thing if we have too much and we cannot sell what we have. Waiting, over processing or bureaucracy, having too many signatures, too many approvals. Overproduction, doing work before it is needed. Defects, mistakes, and skills, not using people's skills. So in Japanese, actually, the non-value added or call it waste is called also muda. So as I mentioned before, the first step, identify the waste. What is the opportunity? Then sometimes we can eliminate. Sometimes we can reduce. And sometimes we can't, right? And so looking at the waste first and then looking at focusing on what is non-value added. So if you think about my story about my flight from Montreal to Toronto, reducing the waste would have been better for me and for the employees. Much less time for people to discuss, much less time to book me on another plane than myself. So it reduces time and effort for everyone. Another tool is process mapping. And what you see here is a real example from a hospital, a Canadian hospital, where the patients are called before the day of a surgery. And then you see step by step what is happening to the customers. They register at the lobby, they move to a waiting area, they move to an exam room. We check the heart, then we check if we need anesthesia or not. All the diamonds here are decision points. Is anesthesia needed? Then is the procedure room available? If it's not available, we need to wait. Is the staff available? So if you see here, you have lots of non-value added. So first, we would use a tool such as a process map to identify what it is. And then step by step, we reduced the non-value added continuous improvement. And we changed the way of working. We changed the planning systems, the scheduling systems. We simplified the process to make things better for the nurses, for the doctors, and for the patients, of course. So if you look at here the example, how many steps we eliminated, you can imagine how it unfolded for the patients. I'd like to show you here an extract of an interesting video that was filmed in 2012, and it is from Toyota. It is a team that flew to a neighborhood to help out after the Sandy storm, which damaged quite a bit of the city. And in that video, you're going to see a little bit what they've done, and you're going to see again Muda. You're going to see the concept of waste. So I'll share here my sound and play that video. It's called Meals Per Hour. You have it on YouTube as well if you're curious to find it.
I love to work, but I also like to put smiles on people's faces. If there's a child out there that's in need, I need to help this person out.
Thank you very much. Yep.
When we down to our last box and you have like 7 families standing on the line and you just have that one box and you don't know what exactly to do, that kills me.
George is a great leader. He knows what he's doing, but they didn't really have a system kind of set up. Because if you have a good system, I think the work takes care of itself.
We call TPS the Toyota Production System. The summation of many, many small, simple, cheap improvements can have a very big impact.
People are starting to understand that these basic principles of the Toyota Production System apply to any kind of process. It doesn't have to be a manufacturing process.
We have our way of doing it, but if there's a faster way for us to go out and give food out to people faster, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
What about a different box size so that we're not shipping so much air?
If we could go to a smaller box, we would have the benefit of being able to put more meals on the truck to serve more people.
The side benefit being it's not so difficult to handle. The thing that struck me was how difficult it was for the volunteers that were there to pack that box. I mean, they were walking long distances. They were carrying heavy weight.
It was kind of disarray, just the table in the middle. Everybody was scrambling to get stuff open. And I'm like, this is not really too productive.
So by putting everybody on one side of the line and having the material come from the opposite, we think we're going to get a smoother flow.
Yeah. Let's go for it now. I don't care if I leave work late. I don't care.
I don't want you to have to walk 15 feet to go get those 2 cans of corn. I want those cans of corn to be readily available to you in the right quantity at the right place at the right time so that you can pack it in the box. Wow, this looks a lot different, doesn't it? It's cool, yeah. Does anybody remember how long it was taking us to pack one box when we first started?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? That's exactly right. It was around 3 minutes.
3 minutes per box.
What do you think we were packing one box? How long and how many seconds today? About 11 seconds.
Kaizen is a Japanese word for continuous improvement. And what this philosophy means is we always want to strive step by step to make a process better. Outside Toyota, problem can sometimes have a negative connotation, like a bad thing. I find that in many cases it's better to say we have something that we can improve.
Sweet.
Much faster, way faster.
Yeah?
Yes. Much faster.
All right. I'll stop it here, but you see, it's quite inspiring, right? And this is the idea of Lean Six Sigma, continuous improvement, involving people, right? Toyota is here. These are people from a community service or department at Toyota, and they're helping and coaching the team, and the team brought the solutions. So now let's discuss about governance. And if you look at a typical governance structure around continuous improvement or operational excellence, well, you're going to have a steering team, which is typically board members and the executives. And overall, they're going to be tracking the overall progress, making sure things are moving forward, relaying to certain metrics, and making sure that the strategy that was defined is going to be then executed in the organization. Sponsors are typically not the boards. So sponsors are the people that are going to make sure that the projects happen. And so these, we're talking about the different managers, supervisors, directors, C-levels within the organizations. And this is really the role of management. And then you're getting to the nitty-gritty here at the bottom in terms of who's doing what in terms of the project. So you need to have a team lead or a project lead for the projects. You need to have the different department managers, function managers involved, and of course, team members. So in other words, board directors are going to make sure that there's a strategic alignments, making sure that there's an oversight in terms of the resource and fiduciary. So expenses, capital expenses, effort expenses, effort in investment, making sure that we're putting our money at the right locations. And of course, looking at risk and compliance, right? It's not only in terms of trying to be more efficient, you want also to make sure that the organization does what is needed for its customers and for its strategic objectives. Let's discuss about how do you go from strategy to the execution plan, the action plan. And as I mentioned before, this is a very, very common problem. And typically what we have, and some of you already know that, probably, you're identifying your strategy, values, your vision, the mission, what you call the MyVI, mission vision. then doing an environmental assessment, SWOT analysis, establishing strategies, and this is typically where things fall. How do we make sure that people understand what are the right actions to take? And people understand, myself, I'm taking an action. I'm a financial advisor. I am a clerk. I'm a business analyst. How are my actions related to the strategy? And then making sure, of course, that there's a certain dashboard that would be available for the executives and for the board members. What I mean by dashboard, and this is just one example, so I can have some financial metrics on my dashboard, some customer perspective, internal perspectives in terms of uh, cycle time to deliver what I need to deliver, my process efficiency of my manufacturing, my healthcare, my social services, my accounting firm, and the also dashboard in terms of people engagement and their learning and growth. So that type of dashboard is typically what would the board of directors and executives look like. It is not the nitty-gritty results about every single project. So how do we do that flow down? And I'd like to introduce you to different techniques. First one is called OKR, Objective and Key Results. So the board with executives would identify the objectives and the key results, and then all the initiatives that's inside the organization, right? So some examples of this, increase our market share by 20%. Well, the board and the executives could define two key results. So commercial contracts, net promoter score improvement with customers. But then you have all the action plan that would then be identified within the organization. If I'm looking at something that is a little bit more intangible, increase employee engagement, same thing. I'm going to take something intangible and I'm going to make it tangible. I could then say increase work satisfaction score to 90%. I could say that I want to have 100% of employees that have a career plan. And then within the organization, identifying all the actions that need to be taken. So the objective and key result is one way to do it, and it inspired another method that is gaining more and more popularity, which is called the True North, sometimes called uh, the X matrix, or in Japanese, Ocean Canry, which kind of means a true north finding. What is this technique? Very similar to what I showed you on the other slide, the OKR, with one difference. So, for example, goals come from the president. Then, as an example, then the objectives are defined by the vice presidents, or it could be a combination, of course, with board directors. And then we're going to management. So within the organization, managers are going to define strategies. The managers are going to involve their professionals and the supervisors to develop the second level of activities, etc. So there's a flow down and there's a breakdown of the objectives into smaller and smaller and smaller action plans. And then what would happen could be once a month, could be once every 2 weeks. There is a communication up. So myself, I'm working in the procurement department. I have one project here, and I'm going to say to my supervisor, my project is green, so your objective is green. Or I will say, my objective is red. So supervisor, I need your help, because if I'm red, everyone is in the red. So the way that the Ocean Canary is done, and just put it here sideways, just for space constraints, doesn't need to be sideways. We're taking the strategy from, for example, the board or the executives. So you see in this example, increase outreach strategies to raise public awareness, develop our financial sustainability. And then the vice presidents would define initiatives. And what I'm looking at here in terms of those white dots and black dots is how do my initiatives that are given to each VP, how do they relate to the objectives of the board or the executives? Take the first one here, identify potential community partners. It's related here. The white dot means it's a zero 0.5. So it's related medium relationship to this one and a very strong relationship to that other one. So if you look at this particular initiative from Tom, it means by doing this objective, I'm killing two birds with one stone, if you understand the expression. With one initiative, I'm addressing two strategies. That's what I'm trying to do with all those initiatives. So if these are VPs, then I can ask my managers, please identify projects to your level, and I can do the same thing. Look at this particular example here, expand service locations. It's linked to three of the objectives of the vice presidents. So again, the expression killing two birds, here I'm killing three birds with one stone. And then if myself, I am Daniel, I could say I'm not meeting a target and I need help from Ariel. Ariel, I need your help because I'm in the red, I need to go back green. And then, because if it is green, it means we're going to meet these initiatives and we're going to meet as well the strategy. So this is a little bit complex, the way that it looks, but this is more the working tool. How I would show it to employees is more of a nice PowerPoint presentation without people needing to turn their heads sideways. So let's discuss a little bit about AI and generative AI. AI is fantastic today when you think about what are the opportunities. Many AI and automation packages available. Some are for workflow automation. So I want to automate a customer inquiry. I want to automate order processing, internal approvals. So lots of tools exist and just listed a few here for your reference. I can also have what we call capacity amplification, meaning reducing the effort, doing more with less time. And an example, I want to auto-generate marketing campaigns. I want to auto-generate articles that I want to put on my website. I want some help in terms of technical writing instead of spending days writing a contract or writing a particular specification documents. So lots of tools exist in order to help us doing this. What we tend to sometimes, unfortunately, forget is the risk. First of all, investing too much in capital investments in AI without first looking at processes and looking at MUDA, non-value added. Reduce the non-value add first. Otherwise, you're investing on something that is already not efficient. Automating to reduce effort, but sometimes we got automated errors because we did not clean the process first. So you understand here my message. First, look at the processes and continuous improvement, and then adding AI to make it even better. Hallucinations, so AI giving wrong results, and ignoring regulations. This is something, unfortunately, that we see more and more. So in terms of personal information, directives on automated decision making, so you have here a few acts you can consult. What I'd like to leave you with is key questions that you should ask as directors. And this acronym here is something that we used with some of our clients. We called it chains. So simplify the process first and then technology after. So capital waste, we've put a few questions on that. Hallucinations, automated errors, ignoring regulations, non-compliance with privacy, sloppy governance on automated decisions. So for each one of those, we listed for you here for your reference the risks and what are some of the checklist items. So, for example, have we mapped the processes? Have we identified the non-value added? Have we done any human in the loop verification? Did we fix the root cause of problems before having automated errors? Did we check regulations? Is personal data masked? Did we make sure that we're addressing confidentiality? Have we conducted an impact assessment, a risk assessment? So this is a wanted to give you that one-page checklist that could be quite interesting when you are going to be confronted with those decisions and situations where you're ready to invest in AI or anything else, and making sure that we do the first things first. So the completed the presentation here in terms of operational excellence, explaining Lean Six Sigma and how it fits with transformation, and also a glimpse in terms of AI and some of the key questions for directors. We got 10 minutes left and wanted to make sure that we had time left, of course, for any comments or questions that you might have.
To have one comment here from Elizabeth. Olusola, if you can type your question in the Q&A section, we'll be able to have Alex answer the questions. Elizabeth says, thank you for the presentation. Some background, I've been working in Lean Six Sigma for the last 20 years, and I'm also an ICDD and have been serving and chairing boards for the last 10 years. I use LSS for decision making, specifically in developing the strat plan and in CEO recruitment. However, a common challenge I've had is ensuring my directors do not go too deep into the weeds of the operations and lose sight of our role as directors. Therefore, incorporating LSS into the management reports is an easy application, but how would you recommend ensuring the directors do not dive deeply into operations in an effort to incorporate LSS? What do you recommend directors do or ask as oversight, staying away from specifics?
Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. So one thing that I recommend is to use some of the formats, and that's why we add in the presentation, for instance, a dashboard such as a balance scorecard or any type other dashboard. And if you look at the examples of the Ocean Cannery, for example, showing the directors the link between the objectives and showing them these objectives are red, these ones are yellow, etc. So, and really focusing on those key points. You could add, you could look it up as well. There's what we call the four quadrant format. It's a format that was developed by General Electric for executive presentations. So very summary of the objectives. So we don't want to show the task list to board directors. It could be a separate discussion, right? If there is, for example, a risk and an audit committee that would like to deep dive because a particular risk has been identified, but really staying at that level of dashboard and first level of the Ocean Cannery. Oh, Alvin, the video is called Meals per Hour. Yeah. So what we mean by confabulation, if I go back to that slide, is that the AI is going to make its own opinion because it doesn't have enough data, and will say that. I'll give you an example of something that happened in Australia in one company. The AI was fed for a recruitment process, was fed with a lot of resumes of people in accountancy, finance, engineering, and mostly men. So, what confabulation? It kind of started to reject all the resumes that came from people from women, first of all, and did a very bad job for other roles. For example, you're hiring someone in procurement, you're hiring someone in IT. So it made its own rules that were completely wrong. You will get a copy of the slides for sure. How boards without strong industry experience become more effective overseers of management? Uh, that is actually that is an excellent question, and one thing that I would suggest here is to really look at if you look at an example of that page that you see here, and this is just an example. What are some of the checklists or guides that you see that are great questions for boards? I do not know, by the way, if you've done the accredited director training, which is an excellent training to go get from the CGIC to go get those types of checklists, those kind of questions in terms of what to ask. And you're absolutely correct. Mostly you're arriving as a board member in an environment, you're a board director. You're not the technical expert of everything that is happening in the organization or the industry.
We did have a question from Manuel asking, how do we link all of that into good quality of service?
The good quality of service, I would really, if you look at the example of the, uh, if you look at the example of, for example, the balanced scorecard, which was a much higher level, I could have here the good quality of service metrics in terms of the customer perspective. Once this is done, either you use OKR or Ocean Canary, what you would do is to then make sure that you deploy, let's say that you have here a strategic objective direction of good quality of service. What are the activities at the bottom level that should be then uh, implemented and then monitored by supervisors, by team leads, not by the boards, but there needs to be a flow down. And if you look at this example here, you do have metrics at the lower level. So you could have a flow down of metrics level by level by level. An excellent reference I can give you for this is a book called The Balanced Scorecard. And you'll see in that book quite some interesting examples of also what are metrics at this lower level can be looked at in terms of service.
Hey, I'm not sure if you got to this one from Ulusola on the process. How do we embed this process in the culture of the organization?
Oh, yeah, I guess I missed that question. Thank you, Kimberly. So, how this process is embedded? First of all, when you look at continuous improvement and without absolutely going to strategy flow down, right? Strategy flow down, OKR and Ocean Canary are great ways to do it. But even if you don't want to go to that extent, is to first have that discussion at the board level in terms of what are strategies and what are the metrics that should be shown to a board meeting on a regular basis. Then what would typically happen in the organization, it's not only about project identification, it's also about uh, giving people the know how and know what. Starting to train some of your people in terms of some of the improvement principles. So having, for example, some green belts. And not training hundreds of green belts, starting to train one department or two department, starting to see some projects unfolding, starting to see some results. And once you see some results, giving visibility to those results in terms uh, of the communication town halls. And the by showing the results, then continue to deploy. So what is really recommended is more of a step-by-step deployment to impact the culture.
Okay. Shelley asks, is there a time during the embedding of the CI process where things get worse before they get better?
I would say things getting worse is as a consultant, this is something that I've seen, and actually I fully appreciate your question. First, do not a common mistake that all organizations do is to train everyone without giving any type of project or anything. And this is actually sometimes where I see people saying to me as a consultant, oh, things got worse. We trained everyone on Lean Six Sigma. Well, you just trained people, but you didn't tell them what to do. So trying to go too fast, trying to just use training to change the culture does not work. If you go step by step, department by department, things are not going to get worse. And for example, the examples that I showed you today, I just showed you some examples. Things never got worse. Things just got better and better, but slowly better. Start slow.
Okay, the last question we have here is from an anonymous attendee. Curious if you have any insights on how a board without strong industry experience becomes more effective overseers of management.
Oh, I answered that question. I did
Oh, you
answer.
answered this one?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Okay. And then the last one was from Jacques. And I can answer this one. Slides will be sent out along with the recording to all registrants within 2 days of the session being over. So yes. Do we have any additional questions? We are at 2:02 p.m. Eastern Time.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for your question and your participation. And please reach out.
Oh, thank you. All right, guys. Well, have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you, Alex. And this is the end of our session for today. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.